Hi guys, welcome back. Back to my channel known as the Manga Man, formerly known as Clues, Cues and Reviews. This video is all about Black Clover. I have kept up reading the weekly basis, I just never reviewed it. I've been off for a good 2 years, but here we are. They're in the third arc, essentially, in this gap from the last time I did my review, so I'll break it down and hopefully we can go into it step by step. So, to start off with, the last time I did a video on this channel and officially released it was chapter 136. It was 3 or 4 chapters into the major arc that I've essentially not covered in my reviews, which is this, I think it's called the reincarnation arc. That's what it goes by on the wiki here, which basically goes from around 133 to around 214, so a good 90 or so chapters arc. There's kind of 3 things that really happen if you want to sectionalize it or compartmentalize this arc. So there's the initial section where they attack the headquarters of the Midnight Eye or the Midnight Sun, or there's so many different translations to that. We'll just call them the bad guys, kind of led by Latri, who's as an imposter for Licked. Then there's a whole segment where the actual elves are resurrected, and then there's a section at the end which is to do with the true evil, essentially. So we'll kind of go through it. So when the initial kind of first stages happen, there's some cool battles. We get to see Leona put in some work against Raya. We see that the Black Bulls get invaded. So there's a lot of different things going on. When the actual elves get resurrected, that's when things like just hit the fan. It's a situation that gets crazy, and it's one of the things I've mentioned in my comments when responding to viewers of these videos, that I really like that it can go to the extreme and rev up so quickly. So let's kind of discuss what happens. So Leona fights Raya and everything else that's going on. Basically the elves get resurrected. There's an attack on the base. We get to see Henry for the first time. Henry is probably the first member of the Black Bulls, really, after Yami. Yami's looking for a castle. He goes to his castle, and essentially Henry's been afflicted with this kind of curse or disease that saps other people's mana. And Asta just thought he was some type of friendly ghost because he doesn't have mana, so he was never affected. He was just playing along with him and everything else. So he's a member of the Black Bulls. The Black Bulls get crazier by the second with all the different members it has. So that kind of thing was cool because they kind of use the Black Bull headquarters as a Transformer / Megazord Power Ranger-esque type thing. And so that was kind of fun to see. Henry being introduced to everything. Then we get the elves resurrected, and there's parts where it looks a bit sketchy, and Leona looks like she's going down, but she hangs in. Then she takes a beating and gives a beating back, I guess. Now at this stage, this is kind of where there's like the section of escape where it looks like evil elves will be the victors, and they're spread around. They've got missions everywhere. Langris attacking the king and the capital, and they're everywhere basically. They're kind of doing work, and this is kind of like Black Clover's, the Black Bulls' opportunity to kind of fight back. And there's a lot of emotional scenes that happen throughout this segment of the fight. I mean, before even the elves get resurrected and everything else, there's a fight between Licked, Latri, and Julius, where Julius dies to save his kingdom. That's kind of like a touching point of this, which I'll round back to in a second or later on in this video. But anyway, so they get the resurrection, and there's like parts where they're fighting with Luck Voltaire, or Rak Voltaire, depending on how you pronounce it. And they essentially kind of made their way back and tried to save all these people that have turned into elves, Langris being one of them. We get to see the return of Fuego Leon with the salamander. I couldn't really think of anybody else other than someone young, like maybe Leo getting the salamander, but the salamander has kind of met its next person. And then we get this kind of a counter-attack, and we get to see this big kind of fight between the elves and the humans, I guess. Now, this is where we get introduced to the big bad, the evil villain that's orchestrated everything, and it turns out to be a demon. So it always felt like there was a disconnect between the humans and the elves, and we were getting one-sided views from memories and flashbacks of the elves being betrayed and killed. But the Magic Emperor, the first main wizard from the kingdom, seemed like a nice dude, and his sister was marrying Licht. But then we get to find out what exactly happened. It was a demon that orchestrated everything, which caused Licht to fall into despair, which caused him to develop the Black Clover, which Asta now has. Before going out of control, he turned himself into a demon, into this big demon, which is that big skeleton that we see, the skull towards the beginning, and the statue above him of the Magic Emperor was, the actual body of the Magic Emperor, and he set himself off to kill him, and he sealed himself away with the help of Nero, who turns out to be a woman, using forbidden curse magic, and they use some of the gems to put back into his eyes, and he comes back to life, as does Licht. So Licht comes back to life. We find out the truth. We find out that everything was done by a demon. They fight said demon, and essentially struggling and coming back and going to the brink of death, coming back. It's a lot of this throughout this chapter. The demon makes them really work for it, but in the end it comes down to Asta and Yuno with the help of his new elf magic, because he's essentially the proxy for the elf human hybrid, his kind of vessel, and they put in work. Then there's there's a section that I always like, because there's a section where the demon's getting defeated, and there's a demon here, and there's another demon here, and he goes, "Sorry, senpai, you need to go and die," which makes sense because it's a demon dweller sword, and we always thought it was a demon because of the outlines and everything that's been depicted. Even Veto felt despair, and he was the despair. So we get to see all this happen. People say their goodbyes. All the elves essentially get pushed back. William gains control of his body. Retrie, that was in William's body, gets Licht's body. Licht goes home. Licht, whatever you want to pronounce. He essentially soul returns. Patrice takes Licht's body, and the three members of the third eye stick around, basically. And that pretty much ends this chapter, or this arc, as it would. And then there's a few sections after that which I'll cover next. So, arc number 2. Arc number 2 is kind of like a mini arc. Well, it's an arc that has mini arcs as far as I'm concerned. It starts roughly around about chapter 215 and lasts about chapter 228. And essentially it has a few different things that happen. So there's the aftermath, essentially, and that lasts normally, I think it's about 4 chapters. Let me just double check. 215 to 219. So yeah, 4 or 5 chapters. What basically happened? So, number 1, we find out that Julius is still alive. He essentially found an artifact, and using his time magic, he put some of his lifetime into this machine. And although he died, he didn't actually die. Now, this can be seen as one of 2 ways. It can be seen as a complete cop-out, and an easy way not to kill somebody and bring him back. Or number 2, you could see it as being heavily planned, because he had this, it looked like a compass on his head, tattoo or imprint of a design on his head, the whole time we've seen him. And then that same kind of tattoo was then seen on this artifact that he'd found, which kind of looked a little bit like a Dragon Ball Z Saiyan pod. That being said, he's back, but he's a kid, so he's alive. Has he got a limited time? Does he carry on from 13 and age again? A lot of different things have happened. The circumstances of this situation is interesting, because he can't outright now just return and say, "Oh, I'm still alive." There's politically an issue there. So it does make the Black Clover Kingdom, or the Clover Kingdom, seem a lot weaker compared to the other surrounding nations, warring nations. That being said, other things are going on. we get the whole thing with William and Julius, because William gave up his body. I know it's a conflict because he was his mentor, his friend, but he was the body of an enemy. He gets forgiven, but again, you can see this as one of two ways. Number one, you can see it as an easy solution to a complicated matter, and again, a cop-out, or you could actually see it as a way of basically changing the way you look at situations. So it would be very easy for Julius to hate him and punish him and do all the things that would be expected of a person. But this could also be the writers, the author's way of saying you don't need to retaliate hate with more hate. Like punishment. You can sometimes return it with love. And it's an interesting way to kind of deal with the situation, because his death would have just been an easy cop-out for him. He did all these bad things, he deserved death. Or he can spend the rest of his life trying to make up for the stuff he's done. And that I think logically makes sense, because it's kind of like death is an easy escape for sins. Spending the rest of your life trying to make up for it seems like a harder ordeal and the harder way out. So then at this point, there's also another element of these 4 chapters where there's a trial, and basically everyone's against the demon that's inside Asta. It's not surprising. Essentially, they're using it as a scapegoat and excuse. Sorry about the coughing. I'm recovering from an illness. Anyway, so Nero, Gauch's sister, Little Marie, they basically get involved in this. He steps up, they pressure him, he steps up, he's obviously protecting them. They see the demon, they're like, oh my god, he is a demon, it wasn't just a ruse. And obviously they're going to go against him now. That being said, the Black Bulls come in. Amazing entrance as always. They don't really care, but it would basically make the matters worse. And just when Yami was going to go and do his damage, I forgot, I did like a brain fart for a second, I could think. But just when he was going to go to do damage, Fuego and Silver come in, because he probably would have done damage against Diamante Kira, which is the king's relative, basically, from the same noble family. But basically, they have to prove Asta's innocence. They're kind of being kicked out of the kingdom, I guess, to a certain degree. And they're going to go abroad, like Yami says. So this brings on to the next segment, which is kind of like curse finding. So we establish a few curses. So Charlotte Rosalie has a curse. They have this whole funny lovey-dovey thing going on, which is funny, but we don't have enough time to kind of go through all the funny bits. We know Noella's mom was cursed, and we get a name. Megicula is a demon's name. So that's interesting. So I'd imagine there's different tiers in these demons. And I'd imagine the demon sword that has the demon in is probably in relation to that higher demon Megicula. So we find out from Noella's mom. We find out from Gordon. We have a map, and basically on that map it shows Henry's curse. There's a curse in Heart Kingdom, a curse that's a demon cursed person or a possessed person, and then we later find out about one being inspired, but we'll cover that later. So then the next, I guess, arc really, or a mini bit of this arc, is to go to the Heart Kingdom, and this is where we find out another country or nation's perspective on magic. It's all tiered, and because of the way the tiering system works, you can level it out. So level 0 to 100, and if 100 is the weakest, then you got to 89, you've improved your magic. It shows progression, and then 0 would be the best. Black magic is kind of like this S-class, something on the side type of thing, or anti-magic. So it gives them an opportunity to kind of treat that slightly differently overall. So that I liked. I mean, realistically, before that, the way we measured a person's ranking or strength in ranking was through the magic mages rankings in Clover Kingdom. It's just that we now have another layer that we can work with, and this may be a retcon, or maybe the author's way of adding a lot more accuracy to the way we measure levels of magic. So that was interesting. And then that mini arc ends with the queen who has this kind of possessed spirit, offering to train up the members that are there. You know, Noella's there, Mimosa's there, Asta's there, Finral is there. I think Leo was there. I can't remember. I need to go back and read. But yeah, so all the people that are there are going to get trained, as well as the other members of the Black Bulls that are helping out. They're going to go do their thing as well. And this leads us into a time skip. There's guardians like Gaja, who was testing them out to a certain degree, and they're getting told that they need to train for 6 months to help prepare to fight against the Spade Kingdom, who has this destructive force that's possessed by a demon, and that's kind of where the next thing is going. So she's got the queen or the princess has got a demon possessing her. She's not got long to live, but you know, she wants to help them prepare for the Spade Kingdom, who's doing bits basically. So that moves on to the current arc, which I'll hopefully go over and cover up till today. So, getting closer to the current arc, or the current chapters, 229 till present 232. I'm conscious that this is going to be a very long video, so apologies. But hopefully after this, as they come out on the weekly basis, the reviews after this, they will be just more detailed about every specific chapter. So apologies in advance, but thank you for bearing with for those that have got this far. Now, we really establish changes in development. So we see initially from Asta's point of view how much he's developed and grown. You can still see that he's got a level to go to, as in like he's got opportunity for further growth, but he's now getting to a point now where he can do damage, and the way he's using his sword. I mean, even in this most recent chapter, he's flying, finally flying after all this time. He couldn't do it with a broom, but he's using his anti-magic to fly. This type of thing will just add more and more layers. Eventually, I'm hoping it gets to a point where he can, like, rather than using his broom for flying, using his sword and leaking it through his body, maybe he can use propulsion through his feet or his boots or whatever have you, and literally these type of things. Or maybe, like, you know, his legs are in the air and he's gonna hit something sharp and he can, like, throw propulsion out from his back. Those sort of things, I'm thinking that type of mobility will probably help Asta in the way he fights, especially because sometimes you can get yourself in a position where you do a heavy swing with the sword and you end up being in a really compromising situation, but it enables you to react to other attacks and be more flexible and mobile in your attack. So I found that the fact that he's grown to the degree he's grown and he seems very overwhelmingly powerful, there's still ways he can add to it. So, you know, whether it's defensively, or, you know, recovery, mobility. So there's so many different ways you can kind of apply your magic, which I'm looking forward to. We get to see also this Spade guy that's possessed, I believe they call him the Triad or the Darkly Triad, and he's got a scar over his head and it looks like it's been operated on or something's happened, whether it's a tattoo or a scar from some type of surgery, I don't know, but he looks menacing and he does damage to the people from the Diamond Kingdom, to a point where Luck and his Luck is there and looks like talking to the members of the Black Bulls, and he's like, I don't want to fight this guy. When has Luck been so scared or petrified to want to fight this guy based on the way he's fighting or the energy he's emitting? That shows how much of a serious threat this is. But at the same time, because he hasn't done that, this will now give much needed intel to the rest of the members when they try to formulate a plan and fight this guy down the line. So there's a lot of that basically happen if you really look at the chapters. There's a lot of finer details that, to be honest with you, I wish I had the time to do. Apologies again, it's just a long video, but moving forward I'll add more detail, I promise. I think the key thing to take as well is the ending, and ultimately within the circumstances and the time that's happened, with Langris being banished, I guess, or in trouble because of his actions in the tournament, in the, you know, in the kingdom attack when the elves invaded, his fall from disgrace has left a void, and with all the things that Yuno has been up to with his elf possession magnifying his powers, the guy's a vice captain. Now I'm assuming, based on whatever else has been going on and the other vice captains we've seen so far, that we're gonna get Black Bulls vice captain at some point. We'd assume it was a member that we've seen already based on Reddit kind of posts and discussions that they had. It does look like somebody else, and maybe he's away on mission, maybe he's on holiday. Oh, where the hell has he been all this time? But I don't know. But I'm looking forward to see who that is, because I thought with the introduction of Henry, with the introduction of Zerx or Zora, Zora the Ash Explorer, that it would be one of them. But no, they're younger members, they're kind of supportive members, they're not necessarily the right hand man, so to speak, like he's been described. Henry, because it's his house, you'd think that, but they haven't out and out said it, so I'm hoping he gets a funky introduction. We've also seen from ranks that they're normally not Magic Emperor level as far as ranking is concerned, not like the great magician level. It's normally vice ones are normally the top of the, I would say, the B class ranking. So if you said the Magic Wizard Julius type of person is S, and you think captains are A in ranking 1 to 5, then you got the senior or high magic people, and that I would say is your B class, and that's where we had Langris before. This could possibly mean that Yuno has gone to that ranking, officially and story-wise as well, rather than assumptions. It looks that way because of where other captains have been. And as you know, with rankings after that, then it's normally intermediate and lower. So basically, we know for a long time that previously the strength of the Black Bulls has always been above an intermediate. Now with the 6 months training, Yuno's got stronger. Asta should have got stronger. Maybe this will be his chance once everything gets sorted out for him to go into that position and become the vice captain. But for him to become the vice captain, he needs to know who the current vice captain is. And because of the way Julius kind of mentioned certain things, I wouldn't be surprised later on down the line or very soon if once this is sorted out, Yami basically becomes the Magic Emperor, and the vice captain becomes the captain, and basically Asta becomes the vice captain in time. That being said, there's a lot of things to look forward to. Hella hyped. I'm trying to contain myself. I'm ill. I'm not necessarily well, but I wanted to get this chapter out there. It's a long one. For those who get to the end, thank you very much. For those that are not subscribed, please subscribe. For those that are, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for staying with me. By all means, like and comment down below. If there's something you dislike, let me know. I love to start conversations, and I like people commenting down below. So let's start a conversation down below, and let's see where the conversation goes. But thank you very much for watching. See you later. Peace.